Hello friends! In just 1 year, Australia processed nearly 9 million head of cattle and produced a record 2.75 million tons of beef. These figures shattered decades of tradition. But given this scale, the big question is, does industrial efficiency truly go hand in hand with animal welfare and the concept of natural that we commonly believe in? Find out in the following parts of this video. Australia's beef industry begins on vast pastoral lands, where cattle are raised extensively before many are finished in large-scale feedlots across Queensland and New South Wales. With some stations managing hundreds of thousands of head and the national herd estimated in the tens of millions, cattle production is a major economic engine in rural Australia. Creating a spacious environment helps livestock thrive, but also presents challenges. Farmers need to gather the herd in one location before loading them onto trucks. Nearly 40 million sheep, goats, and cattle are moved by road each year. While many cattle travel under 310 miles, others are hauled over 620 miles, and in extreme cases nearly 1,550 miles, just to reach a single processing plant. Official welfare standards allow cattle to be transported for 36 to 48 hours without water under specific conditions. But stress, dehydration, and heat exposure rise sharply the longer animals remain on the truck. Operations are conducted according to Australia's stringent animal welfare standards, requiring all animals to be fully anesthetized using approved anesthesia methods before processing begins. Today, over 97% of cattle are processed at certified facilities, where trained staff supervise each stage. Many plants process hundreds of cattle per hour, operating at a rapid and precise pace. Equipment, meat contact surfaces, and hygiene conditions must meet national standards, and temperatures are continuously monitored from process to transport. Each batch of beef has a clear traceability system through the National Livestock Identification System (NLIS). Thanks to its multi-tiered monitoring mechanism, regular audits, and stringent export requirements, Australia is considered one of the world's leading countries in food safety systems for the beef industry. After the process, precision takes over completely. Each carcass is rapidly chilled to between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius, slowing bacterial growth and preserving meat quality within hours. Cuts are graded, weighed, and sorted with near-industrial accuracy from premium export beef to trim for processed products. In this system, almost nothing is wasted. Fat, bone, offal, every part has a destination. Efficiency like this feeds millions and supports a global market. But when did meat become something we buy by the pound instead of something we think about where it came from? And if we no longer see the animal or the effort behind it, does that change how much we value what's on our plate? For American consumers, Australian beef has become more than exotic, it's essential. In 2020-25, the United States imported a record about 412,000 tons of Australian chilled and frozen beef, a 17% year-on-year increase as U.S. domestic production sits near historic lows. Meanwhile, U.S. beef imports overall are forecast at nearly 1.9 million tons, signaling heavy reliance on foreign supply to fill demand in supermarkets and restaurants. Australian lean beef often commands premium prices in U.S. markets, with demand rising even under tariff pressures because it stabilizes supply for products from burgers to steak cuts. Yet most American shoppers never see or think about the cattle, the long transport, the processing standards, or the economics that make imported beef affordable. What they see is price, availability, and taste. We demand affordable, safe, abundant beef, but also humane, ethical, transparent production. Hello friends, 3 days ago I was standing in a Chicago steakhouse staring at an $82.00 ribeye and thinking somebody's gotta be ripping us off. I went undercover as a cowboy for 72 hours to see how the top 3% USDA prime beef in America is really made. So I got in my truck, drove 1,100 miles west, and asked the people who actually make USDA prime if I could shadow them for 72 hours. They said yes. This is what they told me in their own words. Day one started before sunrise at Harlan Ranch, Sandhills, Nebraska. I met Harlan Davis, 68 years old, fourth-generation cattleman. He rode out to check new calves still wet from birth. That calf was literally born with a price tag already written in its DNA. I spent the rest of the day branding, vaccinating, and tagging calves with Harlan's crew. By sundown, my hands were raw, my clothes were soaked with sweat and dust, and I smelled exactly like you'd expect after a full day working cattle. But I finally got it. The road to prime is decided long before that calf ever steps onto a feed truck. Day 2, 4:30 IEM. Five Rivers cattle feeding, the largest feedlot in the country. 98,000 head on dirt as far as you can see. I rode out with the pen riders, real cowboys on horseback, checking for sick animals before the sun even thought about coming up. At the feed mill, I met Dr. Sarah, the nutritionist who writes the recipe that turns a 750-pound yearling into a 1,450-pound prime candidate in 6 months. She handed me a shovel and said, 28 pounds of steam-flaked corn, distiller's grains recycled from Coors beer, a little tallow and a vitamin pack. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A drone flew overhead, reading how much feed was left in every bunk and adjusted the next batch in real time. That night, I slept or tried to stay in the bunkhouse with the crew. The smell of 98,000 cattle doesn't let you forget where you are. Day 3, 3 a.m., loading day. "42 heads that the computer predicted would grade prime climbed onto a potbelly trailer headed to JBS Greeley, 4 hours north. I rode shotgun with the driver. We pulled in just after sunrise. The plant processes 5,500 head a day, and every single carcass gets looked at by a USDA grader. I stood 6 feet from the grading stand while the ribeye was exposed between the 12th and 13th rib. First carcass. Thick, bright cherry red, marbling score. Moderately abundant. The grader hit the button prime. Second carcass, leaner, small marbling. Choice, $400 less in the rancher's pocket in the span of 3 seconds. The head grader told me about the new 2025 remote grading pilot. Some plants now send high-res photos to graders hundreds of miles away and get an official stamp in minutes. Technology just made prime possible for the little guy again. When the shift ended, the crew let me pull one freshly graded prime ribeye off the line. It was still 90 degrees. I carried it outside, fired up my little Weber on the tailgate of my truck, seasoned it with nothing but salt, and seared it right there in the parking lot while the Colorado sun came up. First bite. Buttery, beefy, ridiculous. I've eaten a lot of steak in my life. Nothing has ever shut me up that fast. Three days, 2,000 miles, almost no sleep. I came here suspicious, maybe even a little angry about the price of beef. I'm leaving with a cooler full of prime and a completely different opinion. What I saw wasn't a scam. It was one of the most sophisticated high-stakes food systems on the planet. Genetics, nutrition, technology, and a whole lot of hard, dirty work trying to hit a target that only 3% of the entire country's cattle ever reach. So yeah, that $82.00 ribeye, turns out it's one of the best deals in food. Now it's your turn. After everything you just heard, drop a comment and tell me straight, is USDA Prime worth the money, or am I officially insane?
Hello, friend. This isn't gold, this is ham. 1 pound costs $226.00 more than an ounce of 18 carat. A 7-ounce slice, $45, enough to feed 4 people. Or blow your weekly grocery budget. Meet Jinhua ham, the world's priciest cured meat from China. outpacing even Italian prosciutto and rivaling Spanish jamón ibérico in sheer extravagance. While jamón de Bellada tops out around $150, 0 cents per pound for its acorn-fed Iberico pigs. Jinhua's 1,000-year legacy and hyper-local production drive its premium to new heights. In the next minute, you'll watch 1 year of human labor collapse into a single bite and discover why 99% of the planet will never taste it. Would you pay $45 for 7 ounces, yes or no? Answer in the comments right now. Step inside a 170-year-old workshop in Jinhua, China, where time itself is the most expensive ingredient. The process demands precision that no machine can replicate, justifying every dollar of its lofty price tag. Everything starts with a single hind leg from the Liangtawu pig, black and white. Pandas rare, only 60,000 raised each year in Zhejiang's specific microclimate. One pig yields exactly 2 legs, meaning an instant 50% loss before a single grain of salt touches the meat. Raw cost, $50 per leg, already double the price of standard pork legs. Used in cheaper hams like Parma prosciutto, which clock in at under $50, 0 cents per pound wholesale. This rarity alone elevates Jinhua above mass-produced alternatives. While Iberico pigs roam free in Spain's dehesas, Liangtubu's endangered status and limited breeding grounds create a supply bottleneck that inflates costs from the farm gate. Artisans slice away every scrap of fat and bone by hand. No machines, no shortcuts. One slip and impurities ruin the batch. Then comes the brutal 90-day salt grind. 6 layers of sea salt, daily checks at exactly 35.6 df. Each leg eats 25 full days of skilled labor, $10.00 in wages before you count generational know-how. Skip one inspection, mold wins, the whole lot trashes. Prosciutto di Parma salts in weeks inside sterile plants. Jinhua's old-school torture racks up costs and carves scarcity into the meat itself. Next, hams dangle under open eaves for a merciless month of wind drying. Only Jinhua's razor-sharp four-season swing, bitter winters and steamy summers, work. A rogue typhoon or heat spike can torch 30% of the year's crop overnight, jacking insurance and pushing the final tag to $226.00 per pound. White truffles from Alba hit $3,000.00 per pound on Harvest Roulette. Jinhua's 55,000 leg ceiling is steadier but still elite. Six to 8 months in pitch follow. Enzymes gnawing proteins into glutamic acid and umiminuk. This stretch outruns Iberico's 36-month ceiling, forging nutty caramel depth with no cheap hemp touches. 1 gram of that firepower, $1 in Michelin kitchens. Final rice oil coat, 2 more months aging. Production hits $150.00 per pound. Retail $226.00. The 35% spread isn't greed, it's a hazard to pay for a year-long gamble. Can you guess how much it costs to produce Jinhua ham, 30% rare Liangtou pork, pricier than Iberico Blackfoot due to protected bloodlines? 40% labor, 1 year of human touch versus Parma's conveyor belts. 20% weather and time roulette, echoing Beluga Caviar's $5,000, 0 cents per pound over fishing premium. Last 10%, UNESCO Intangible Heritage branding Jinhua China's foie gras. That's $23.00 per pound just for imperial bragging rights. Post-pandemic, Asia's 1%ers hoarded legs, like Bordeaux futures prices, spiked 15% in 2025 alone. Theme 14. The saga starts 1127. General Zongzai gives fire-cured legs to the Song Emperor, who christens them Jinhua and locks them behind palace walls, 1 leg worth a servant's yearly pay. Marco Polo swipes the blueprint in 1295, birthing prosciutto. (1915) Panama Expo gold medalizes the ham, rocketing value in a century. Today, wax seals and provenance papers fight fakes. Tacking on verification fees that keep counterfeits at bay and prices sky high. So what is the best way to cook Kim Ho ham? 20 grams. Steamed in rice wine, stir-fried with garlic, tossed into egg yolk rice with scallions. 4 golden plates. Over salt it and you're sunk. This is umami dynamite. One serving outputs a $100 0-cent steak at pennies per forkful. Jinhua ham isn't lunch, it's a year of sweat, weather, wars, and royal DNA compressed into ruby slices. At $226 0 per pound, it laps prosciutto's daily driver luxury and stalks Iberico's acorn-fed crown, but its hand-forged Chinese soul stands alone. $45 buys entry to a lineage where time is the ultimate currency. You just watch one of 55,000 legs born this year. What would you make with yours? Comment, subscribe, grab links below. Stock evaporates faster than Zhejiang fog.